Hello, back again at you for another sketch card for today. And we are going to be doing a surprise. It was supposed to be Sabretooth, but I mixed it up a little bit. Put in a Sabretooth Wolverine Fight Night card where the fighters always face off, and I thought that would be a cool thing to liven it up and twist it up just a little. So we have Wolverine standing here in the front, and Sabretooth in the back, shoulder to shoulder parallel here, so we can get this whole thing going on. I'm going to start right in on this shoulder and twist it around where you can't get a good perspective. But we're going to make it happen. So I have this classic Wolverine shoulder pad, arm guard, shoulder guard, whatever you want to call it. And I just wanted to stop and get that out of the way so I didn't forget about it or overdraw it later. This is the typical classic Sabretooth suit with the fur going around. These guys are like right up in each other's nuggets here. Pie hole to pie hole. I mean, they are like right there. And if you are a UFC fan or a wrestling fan, a lot of these guys get up in these fight night grudge match shots like this, setting everything up, and they really get down to it. And what I was telling someone I was talking to off camera before I started, this kind of thing this shows my age, because this brings something to mind that cracks me up as a song reference for it, as MC Hammer's Too Legit to Quit album, Hammer Time and all that mess, and it made me think, I can't touch this, you know. It cracks me up 10 Ways from Sunday. The idea of these guys wanting to fight and scrap and getting right up in each other's face and not be able to do anything. Gonna get in that classic Wolverine lower lip. Kind of tilt that out a little bit so we can get a little more fang out of it. Because Wolverine has kind of more of a vampire type of thing going on, rather than more animalistic. We wouldn't be able to see that other one from this side. But yeah, this is going to be a fun one to draw, because it kind of tipped off shoulder to shoulder, and it's going to make a really neat shot. At least I hope so. That's the plan. Drawing that under jaw there. I had a lot of fun laying this one out, because it was, I went through it 3 times trying to figure out. Normally I don't give it that much time. I just say, you know, one and done. But it was interesting laying this one out because of how everything was going. I wanted to give it that edge that it needed, and push back a little harder than what I normally would with my layout. And this one definitely got it done. I'm very proud of this one, actually. Normally I don't let pride get in the way, but this one's a fun one. I've got that high-end snarl on this one. So he's got a really strong grimace and snarl going on, and I definitely wanted that to be portrayed here. Now there's the center of the brow, and there goes the other side right here. And what we're going to do is I'm going to put a little black trim right there for that mask so that it pops off. And that way it shows the other side of the forehead without question. I want to make that mask prominent. Right here is the other side of the brow. And right here is where the mask takes off. I really want that one to jump. I'm making this really, really hardcore organic. And by organic, I mean I want it to look like it's flesh rippling. Normally I don't go that intently with it, but yeah, this one's going to be one of those that's going to have to be like right in the face, because all the emotion's right here and right here. And if it doesn't have it, it just doesn't have the impact. And that proves that theory right there that, you know, when you're drawing comics, you have that whole thing, that whole legendary tale of the rule is the powers and the emotions of the hands and emotions of the face. Well, if you can't use your hands, you're going to have to show it in the face. So get it in there. Put a little tension on his bottom lip here, right across his chin. Gonna get that mandible fired up right here. Because this is black, I cut this off because it really didn't matter as to how far that went. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a highlight right here, because with his neck stretched out, the mask is going to shift backward, so you're not going to have quite as much, and there's going to be way more tension right here on the front. So that's the reason we don't have that typical wide Wolverine jaw, because it's there, it's just pulled out and it's at an angle, so we're going to see less of it. And all this is black anyway, so like I said, this drops back very easily. But I blocked it out so that I could drop it off. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw in that crow's foot patch right here. Traditional wraparound for Wolverine's jaw and eye and forehead right in here. Because there's the top of the jaw, the cheekbone right there. I'm going to black that off and segment that so we get that ridge. And now I'll go back in here behind, and that gives me the dividing line right there for that little detail, that little highlight, to really make it pop off. Because even though it's going to be angular and sharp, I want it to still have that curvature to it like it's supposed to for Wolverine. So we get that edge and it gets that look it's supposed to have. And like I said, you know, as you guys know, I don't draw photorealism at all, and I'm not trying to even go that route right now. I'm just kind of color it in and give it some body, some detail and form, and that's it. Just want to give it a little bit of an edge. It is going to be black. I am not even playing with that. I am going Wally Wood's classic rule. And if you don't know what that is, if in doubt, black it out. That's something he said to every comic book artist that he's ever worked with. If in doubt, black it out. Don't play around with it. Don't screw it up. You know, let a colorist come in and save you. Let an inker come in and save you. Black it out and move on. Now, I am going to put a little bit of a highlight up here at the top, just to contrast it a little further. So it doesn't go completely dark on us. But like I said, I'm not playing around here. I don't mess with this stuff. It's not my style's match at all. It does not sync with me. So what I'm doing is I'm giving solid highlights, solid blacks, and moving on. And if you don't know how to do this stuff, please practice or move on until you know how. Because if you don't, you will mess some stuff up. I mean, contrasting light and dark is pretty easy, but a lot of people try to play with it too much and they want it to look cool. Don't do that. Because what you're going to end up doing is falling off. And by that I mean you'll get it to where you don't have the follow through. Yeah, I will put this to public right at the end, Mike. Once I start filming, I can't turn it over, but I will turn it to public as soon as we can. Let me get under here and see if I can. Yeah, there we go. We are now public. There you go. I appreciate the share, man. That's awesome. Thank you. I'm going to put a little highlight on the front of this ear. Right up in here, but I don't want it to be too high because, like I said, the jaw's compressed a little bit. So I want to drop that back a little bit where we can black out this shape and move on to the fin for the back of the head. Because this side is going to be dark. There we go. Now we've switched this public so everybody can see it. If you're just joining up, thanks for stopping by. This was supposed to be a card of the day, sketch card for Wolverine and Sabretooth. It was supposed to be Sabretooth. I switched it up and turned it into a fight card shot of Wolverine versus Sabretooth instead. And I'm knocking this out so that we can see the finished product. This is live. We are doing these live on the spot. So normally I wouldn't shade all this in, just in case you don't, you know, you're new to these cards and what I'm doing and whatnot. I want to share it flat out. I know this isn't comic book principle to shade this stuff in with a pencil if you're going to be inking it as well, which I do color and ink all of these. But because it's a sketch card and because I know I'm inking it and I'm going to erase it anyway and clean it, I go ahead and black this out just to get in the detail that I need. So now where we're at so far, we've got Wolverine's head, we've got Sabretooth over here, Wolverine over here, and they're standing parallel shoulder to shoulder as the fighters do, so that we can get that contrasting look. Okay, I'm going to go right up in here where the neck muscles connect, put that little shadow ridge right there, draw that ripple from the neck muscle that comes down into the neck here. Draw that back up. Now I'm going to draw this one for the back side, because Wolverine's a big, thick dude. He's got that divot right there to where they divide. So I'm going to draw in a little bit of this divot in the shoulder where the muscle separates, and then it'll go straight down and wrap into that lat. That's exactly where I'm going with it. Now this is the back part, this is the back edge of the deltoid, which sticks out underneath that big shoulder armor. And, you know, I don't know all the muscles and all that mess, and I don't try to. And you don't have to, as long as you know how to extrapolate them, so you can get the rest of the art done. I don't believe you have to know every little muscle. I do them more massive in groups so that they reflect that way. Because as you can see, this neck muscle set right here is a big group. They'll come right here off the jaw, right down front, which we won't see after that point, and you can see them start to pop off. So I'm going to put a little divot right there where the muscle fibers start to separate into that group, and then come right off the side. And you'll see the edge of the way he's standing right there, you'll see the edge of the clavicle or shoulder collarbone come up just a little bit. And then we'll see these tendons wrap in here, which, like I said, I won't draw all that mess out because I don't get that deep into the anatomy of it. But I am going to pop in this shadow right here to show the back of the neck and the back of the shoulder here. Sometimes people like to shade one side, and then other times they don't. You know, I prefer to do that one prominent side so that you get that edge and the weight, because I have a little bit more of an animated style, so I tend to lean that way. Like right down here, I'll pop in a little crease right here, hook it back, and then you have the start of the back of the lats and some of the divisions and divides, and in there where the muscles ripple and all that mess off the shoulder blades and all that stuff. So right down here, put in a little bit of a shadow right off that face, and then we'll go in and put the stubble in a minute. I give him what a lot of people have come to affectionately call the Elvis lip as I draw. It's just something that I do. It's not conscious. At least it wasn't until people started pointing it out. So, if you ever notice, Wolverine's got little bitty teeth. He's got like baby teeth. It's strange, actually. When you start to do like studies of him or whatever, you'll notice that he has these little bitty tiny teeth. And I mean, you won't notice it unless you really, really get in there. But yeah, I've always found that fascinating that he has such small teeth in comparison to what the other guys do. Because Sabretooth, I'll go ahead and cut these in just so you can see the difference. Sabretooth has these big gawking game show refrigerator teeth that go down here across this line. And it depends on who's drawing him as to where they come in or not. But they almost look like a game show host in the way that they're drawn, because they're way bigger. Of course, with this guy, you know, you won't hear any, you know, chimes or dings or whatever. Because he almost has a classic Sasquatch look, as it were. Because he's so big, you know, he's just a big dude. And that's part of the attraction to that character, is the fact that he's so freaking massive. You know he's going to tear some stuff up. I'm going to go ahead and cut in that lip here now that I've started on this side. I'll go back to Wolverine. I just don't want to lose my spot where I'm at right there with those teeth. And this is going to be a very thin ridge right here to divide that one. I want to make sure they're even because there's 4 teeth between the fangs. I want to make sure it's even. Now, I'll inset these just a little. Like I told you, dude's got big old teeth, see? And they fit in his head. So, we have Wolverine mapped out. That came out really good. I'm checking it on camera to see what you guys are seeing. Very nice. We've got him squared off. I'm going to put in a few more details here, and then we're going to move right on. Because I just want him to have the look he's supposed to. Alright. There we go. Now we're going to put in that... I know that's a fake tear duct thing on the mask, but it's a trademark thing of mine. That's what I do. So I pop in that tear duct right there. It just gives a little more, whether you black them out or white them out or color them or draw on the actual eyeballs, it just gives it a more human look when you put in the tear duct. It gives it organic appeal, I've found out, and that matches up from my style of what I do, okay? So... I'm going in here, cutting in the eyes. And be sure to give a little bit of a wrap to them, because if you don't, it doesn't look like they're under the eyelid, and it'll look like they're squashed, and they won't look organic, which is the word of the day, apparently. But but it works. So be sure to add that tear duct in, because if you do it, be sure and overlap the eyelid over that thing, because if not, it'll look like it stands out and it'll look weird. And if you do that in front of an editor, they will be like, what's wrong with that eye? It's got a second eyeball. It's got a miniature eyeball. It's messed up. And then they'll pull a big ruler out of the drawer and whack you upside the head, and then they'll tell you to go back and redraw it. So don't do that. I've seen it happen. Don't do it. Okay, again, drawing in that crunched face. I'm going to divide this one like this with the V-break instead of going in and drawing all 3 sections like that. Because some people have that and some people don't. Some people, these 2 parts stick over and overlap on that in some people. And Sabretooth has always been one of those that I've noticed that does that. So, and that's one of those little tricks that you got to pay attention for, because it'll give you characteristics of the person that make them stand out. Those little details are a big part of what makes it stand off. So think about that when you're doing it, because it'll come back and help you out a lot. Gonna put in that other nostril. Look, he can breathe. And then pop in the other side of this nose. Now I'm going to tip this up because he's snarling and grimacing. I'm going to tip this up a little more and dig it a little deeper into the sarcastic position, more the exaggerated position, as it were. But Sabretooth, see, Sabretooth sets off Wolverine full force, and he's an aggravator and an instigator, so he's a protagonist for sure. So that you don't have to worry about when you're drawing characters like Sabretooth, you don't have to go all in with the over-aggression from this guy, because you get it out of, you get the emotional response from him prodding him. So just to let you know, that's why he's not full out grimacing and just all off the deep end quite as much as Wolverine is. And that's whenever you see them in animation or film, whenever they go toe to toe, every single time Wolverine instantly just loses it. And the reason for that is because of the fact that this character gets under his skin so badly. And that's part of the process of this character being there. He's there to provoke and rattle his cage beyond normal emotional capacity to where he snaps off. That's why people dig it when they fight so much, because he brings out the best and worst in Wolverine to where he goes completely off the reservation and just pops off. Now, I'm going to cut this in. I know a lot of people are like, that's wrong. It's not, because sometimes people have dimples in muscles in their face, and I like to put that on Sabretooth particularly, because of the fact that it just resonates a harder flex in his snarl. And since he talks through his nose being snarled 90% of the time when Wolverine's involved, it makes it very easy to dig into that character and say, okay, that's a cool feature. So he communicates through his teeth most of the time. So having that grimace go on to where his nose is tipped up a little higher and crunched down, and I was going to put in these divots right here, and then a little bit stronger under the facial muscles where he gets into these lines and whatnot and folds out that extra little flex in his face, helps out immensely in giving, again, that extra little characteristic that you wouldn't normally have. Now I'm going to give this shadow crease right here, and the reason I drew in the hairline is because I want to give that shadow crease right along that hairline so it simulates it when I wipe this out in just a second, because I'm about to put up the typical Sabretooth wraparound mask that goes over his hair. Boom, there it is. Okay? And that gives me the guideline for this. Whenever I come out right here, right at the peak of that crown, right up here on his head, that crest right there, I'm coming down here, and here's where it tells me where the hairline is for when I bring out those traditional little golden sprigs of Sabretooth's sideburn hair. Which, whether you knew he was Wolverine's brother before or after the Origins crossover, the very cool thing about that is the fact that we should have all noticed anyway, and that's part of what started the rumors. When I was a kid, all the guys at the comic store, the older guys that were around, would debate it, and I would get to hear those stories as to what they thought were this, that, and the other. And a lot of times they thought, because of the sideburns, believe it or not, that was the game changer to tell everybody that Wolverine and Sabretooth were brothers. And if you didn't know that they were brothers, oops, I'm sorry for the spoiler alert. So, we've got that marked out. Now I'm going to put in the ear, which I'm going to cover. So, it'll be that. And I'm going to put a little divot back here. So we got that going. Now, I'm going to cover in the back of the dome here. Look, Mom, he's got a nugget. Put in a little crease right here at the back of the neck. Move over here so you guys can see this thing. Okay, we've got the neck there. The card's going to warp on me. Now I'm going to put in the shading here. This is very simple because this is the classic brown, the old mocha colored costume. What I'm going to do here is going classic like that. And I'm going to leave this very high and tight and not over detail this at all. I'm just going to put in, boom, shape of the head, bring it down a little bit. I'm going to spin this around where I can shade that, because I don't do a lot of cross hatching and all that. I leave it open. I'd rather have a clean image for it to be colored rather than mess with it by cross-hatching it, because I'm not good with that. I tend to overkill it, and I don't want to do that. So for a second, I'm going to go back over here to Wolverine. I'm going to pop in a nice cut right there. Right behind that mandible. I'm going to shade that out and go ahead and finish up his mask real quick, just to give it a little more edge. Give it a little bit of a highlight just to pop it off. There we go. Okay, cool deal. Now, excuse me. And at this angle, by the way, just in case anybody's questioning it, the tiger stripe that goes through here, we wouldn't see it at this angle. It would be suppressed up underneath the edge of the fabric there. So that's why I didn't do that. If everybody's freaking out about it, it would be up underneath here, and the angle we wouldn't see it. It's like, you left off the tiger stripes, man. It's not Wolverine without the tiger stripes. But, yeah. That's where we're going with that. Now, again, I'm going to leave his eyes open as well. We're going to have traditional white eyes, like they're masked kind of thing. And just to modernize it a little bit, and to tweak on it just a little, what I'm going to do here is this new thing that's been huge with Sabretooth, is people bringing in the mask down on his nose. It normally just went right here between his eyes, but now everybody brings it down on his nose to make it more modernized, I guess, for lack of a better term. So we've got him in now. I'm going to do the forehead hair. Go ahead and do the get out the bangs here. This dude's hair is all over the place. Now, the reason I got real quiet there for a second is because I'm watching that seam of that card and I really don't want to tear it. So I am paying close attention to that. And I've got him with hair just about every which way. I do big segments there so that we can see that happen without being strange like I did on his face, you know. I'm going to leave the fur open except for a couple of little twigs here and there to really pop it off. I don't like doing a lot of this right here because, like I said, I'll over detail that and it'll just be a muddy mess. I know my strengths and I play to them hard because of that fact right there. Now, I'm going to put in this shoulder and put in the other side of the chest here. This is something I pay close attention to too, is where the clavicle is and where the collarbone is, because I've learned a stylized lesson to set the chest that way. That way I guide in all my neck muscles and I don't monk them up, because I used to have a problem with doing all kinds of funky things. You know, I would exaggerate stuff and this, that, and the other with the design, and I really didn't want to mess with that. So what I did now, what I did in my recent style change and update was to push over through this so that I don't have to mess with that anymore. I put in where the chest is, draw it out, and then we don't have to monkey with that anymore. We've got both those. And we can draw the chest. Boom, right there. And believe it or not, there's supposed to be 2 of those. There's 2 of them. I am getting... Sorry about that. I had a bunch of chimes come on and I had to change screens so that it wouldn't pop up over my cam display. I have my settings on Facebook to where the chats will pop up over the video and pops up in the way. Sorry about that interruption, guys. I just wanted to get them out of the way. So I'm going to come in right up underneath this hair. It's going to look like I'm going to walk over it, but I'm not because it's still there. I'm going to get that knocked out. And this is where the shading comes in for the underside of Sabretooth's neck and hair. Going to give it a little bit of a shadow drop. Because the light's coming down from this direction, primarily in this way. Then there's another light coming down this way. So guess where the crosshatch shadow is going to be? Boom, right there. That's where it's going to X with a big spot right there. Now, because his big nugget's in the way, this right here is going to be easily blacked out. And the fur helps too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop a line in right there to show that, and I'll kind of jag it up a little bit. 1, it breaks the light, and 2, it shows a little bit of fragmentation from the fur. So it exaggerates that, and it'll make your brain pick it out and go, wow, man, that looks like the fur shadowed. So, yeah. Gonna put a little mark right there into the collarbone, right there, right there. Now this is the original suit, so it goes all the way up. So we don't have to worry about all of the, the bone necklace or any of that that some of them have, like the Age of Apocalypse version has that bone necklace where he pulled out people's teeth. And they even said later who that was supposed to be from. It was supposed to be from another mutant's teeth. I don't remember which one they said it was. But, yeah, that... Of course, that whole run's really obscure in the way that they did it. Okay. I'm going to rotate this just a little bit. And we're going to get that neck fin started right in here. I'm going to show this cooling down a little because I want to make sure that it looks like a neck and not a big, fin out the side, because that's not the way that his muscles work. Now, I'm not really tiger striping this. I'm just adding a couple of fiber textures the way he goes to make it look kind of like it's fibrous, like a costume, like it's supposed to be. And I don't want to block all this out and black it out, because his head and neck block that stuff. His chest would be highlighted right here, and then we would turn it and go right in here and pop in a big black shadow right there. Because this is where his pec would start to turn downward, and we wouldn't see that, and then there would be a shadow running down along here for the fur, which I'm going to add in. And after that, cover that up where I just ran over. See, you got to be on the fly, when you're doing this kind of thing. I'm going to switch up to the 9 here, flatten out my edge a little bit. If you don't know what I mean by that, I took my pencil lead and I rubbed it back and forth across a piece of paper to give it a flat edge. cuts the lead at an angle. I hope you guys can see that when I show that, but it gives it a little bit of an angle so that it's smoother and not sharp and doesn't cut into the card. And if I need the point, I just rotate it and there's the point. But right now I'm using that flat edge to shade this off. Show that fur coming out a little bit. Now, I've got a little bit of a shadow right here for this delt. I'm going to clean this up a little bit because this is a little bit gritty here. There we go. That looks better. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to shadow the back side of this shoulder and pec right here. There's the pec line, there's the shoulder, the front delt right there. And this doesn't define it. This is a light ridge in the middle because the actual deltoid would be over here, more at this angle. Especially the way his shoulders tipped, it would be more of over here as the primary muscle, and then the larger deltoid on the outside that everybody knows is that big shoulder muscle is right there on the outside. But I don't want to over define that by closing it off, so I'm not gonna. Now we are gonna leave this one as soon as I shade in some of this hair here, because I have a problem with it whether he's blonde or not. I want to shade the underside of this hair just to make it pop off a little bit, because it's still gonna be shadowed, you know. We will call this done. Okay. Now I'm going to shade some more of these in just to round them out. Now I'm going to round out these edges. But yeah, when I shade these off, I know it looks a little awkward at first, and some people, you know, they squawk at me and say, you know, hey man, that's supposed to be blonde. Why are you blacking him out? Well, the thing is, if you don't shade the hair, you know, it still gets shade no matter what. It has a light side and a dark side. And if you don't, it just doesn't look dynamic in the black and white form of the penciling. And you need that shadow in the line work to pop everything out. See, it's giving it way more dimension. I'll do the same thing to his eyebrows in just a moment and show you guys how that's done, because I like to light one side prominent, and the reason I do that is so that it pops off. Like I said, it scales it up. But now we're going to come in with the eyebrow right here. I'm going to give it just a little bit of a body of an edge right there, and then I'm going to come in and boom, done deal. That's that simple. Just underlying, that's a part of the hair there to make it pop off. Now, like I said, with this, I'm going to be very careful and leave it open, because I do not want to monkey with this too much, because if I go messing with it, it's just going to make it look watered down or mucked up, and I don't want either one of those. It'll make it look too thin and flat, or it'll make it look too detailed and burn it out, and I don't want either one of those. So I'm going to do a little bit here and there just to give it a little weight. And we are done with that. Now the final thing that I do need to do is the Wolverine shoulder here. Because of where the light's coming in, this is going to be a thin shadow back here, and then the rest of this is going to be all sheen. Come in, pop in the sheen. And there we go. I'll black that out and we'll be done, because the rest of it will be blue, and that will be a white shine, which I will leave open. Okay. Now, we are done. I say that as I pick up a little more weight on it to make it pop up front into the foreground a little. There we go. Cool. Okay. We are about 45 minutes into this, and I appreciate you guys hanging out with me so much. Thank you. Let me see what I have on the roster for tomorrow. Let's see. Who do we have? I have Sauron for tomorrow. If you guys don't know who he is, be sure and look him up ahead of time so that you won't be shocked whenever whenever I bring out the card. And thanks for hanging out with me. I appreciate it. I'll see you guys tomorrow.